All right, we're here, everybody, at Freaky Fast Broadcasting for the Wicked Racing League here at the Richmond Raceway for the Get Money 175. My name is Zach Cole, and joined alongside me tonight is going to be Brandon Colley. And shout out to our producer, Robert Moore Jr. We had some technical difficulties, so we were running a little bit behind here, but he got them all ironed out and fixed up for us here as we could get the start of the green flag for this Get Money 175. But we're going to pull these qualifying results up here in the next few moments to look and see how the drivers played out through the qualifying session to start tonight's 175 lap event here, as it's been 10 races so far, as this is the 11th race of the season, and through the 10 races, we've had 9 different winners, so it's been a mixed bag when it comes to winners. We could see another 2-time winner here, possibly adding his name to Cedric Hunter on that list. But here's the starting grid for tonight. It's Gavin Rogers starting on pole. Second's going to be Alex Coffey. Third's going to go to Steven Stippian. Fourth's going to be Nigel Christensen. Fifth's going to be Dakota Camper. Sixth is going to go to Dallas Manis. Seventh is Carl Pooler. Eighth, Stephen Borbell. Ninth is Adam Buzzio. And rounding out the top 10 is Jimmy Kubinek.
And starting 11th is Mason Hausman. 12th, Blaine Wilson. 13th is Brad Delph in the 14 machine. 14th, Jamie Plord in the 33. 15th, Ryan Harrison. 16th, Johnny Shade. Cody Reed in 17th. Christian DeRoche in 18th. And rounding out the field is Alexander Light in the 6th and 19th.
19 cars here on the grid for 175 laps here at one of the premier short tracks in America, the Richmond Raceway. It is a track that is known to always put on great action, and I think we could see some of that here tonight, Brandon.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the few short tracks that we have where side-by-side racing is really viable. You've got a lot of options here, and depending on what the balance of the cars are like, one line's going to be favorable over the other. We're going to have to see what these guys can figure out as this race progresses and which line comes away as being the dominant one.
We'll have to see which lines are dominant, like you said, because this track does have that opportunity to be a little bit of a multi-groove race, and I think a driver that can figure that out will be the one to be able to definitely put themselves in a best-case scenario. But we got one more pace lap around here before we set them off and get them going for the 175 laps here tonight at Richmond. And Brandon, I tell you, that's first stage at lap 50. What do you feel like these drivers need to do here in this opening stage?
Well, I think you're going to see two options. Guys are going to push really hard, and some guys are going to take it a little bit easy just to kind of see where their speed's going to be at the end. And it also depends on what kind of cautions we see. But I'm in the camp that I'd push hard here, see what the tire wear is like, and then kind of adjust your driving style after that stage where you can take some tires and essentially get a freebie to re-rack and get reset.
Well, folks, you heard it there from Brandon Colley. I think he's on the money there for this, and it's the Get Money 175 here at the Wicked Racing League, brought to you by Buttkicker, and we're about to get this Buttkicker Cup Series all kicked off here as the pace car takes the hard left-hand turn down the pit road. The green flag is out, and we're off and away with Gavin Rogers leading it down to 1. But a great start from Alex Coffey on that outside, as it's going to be just a nose ahead for the 77.
Well, then Steven Stippian looking to the inside of Coffey here. Gets a decent run out at 2, but the outside lane, just that little bit more momentum, and Coffey sails it off into the corner, but misses it big time on the cold tires.
Easy to do that on cold tires. The tires just not up to that grip level yet as they build in temperature, and we're actually having a car that hit the wall hard back in the field. That was the Ada Jimmy Kubinek as he is dropping through, and even other drivers wrecking, such as Alexander Light and Johnny Shade. Those two go around here to bring out a caution here on the start of the second lap.
Gonna have to look and see what happened with this one here. I think it may have all kind of resulted from Kubinek getting into the wall, and a weird turn of events for the 6 of Alexander Light there. I do not know how to explain that one.
It was very awkward, is the way I would put it, Brandon. It was, I think Kubinek maybe did have somewhat of an effect there with him, being slow down the front straightaway, making it 3 wide up ahead. But I think I may put this one down to maybe a brake bias thing here, because this number 6 machine just completely loses it when we see this. So this is going to be a wild incident, I think, here, folks, as we're going to get this one queued up for us. And describe how this worked out, Brandon.
Well, they're all kind of checking up for the Ada Jimmy getting into the wall, and then it seems like Alexander Light maybe trying to get a little bit harder on the brakes in the bottom there. You see him kick out to the left, and then it just snap overcorrects. It's going to come up here and tag Johnny Shade, unfortunately, but that is extremely bizarre to see. That does not happen very often. It's just a lot of rear brake in that 6 car.
That has got to be the case there. I mean, it is normal at Richmond. I know from previous experience myself even. I think you might even be able to shed a little bit more light on this. But into 1, it always does seem like that could be the corner where if you do have rear rearward instabilities, it's going to show up there just due to that D-shaped oval.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Zach. It's the way that you're arcing into the corner while you're still under braking, and if you have a lot of rear brake, it's just that extra bit of side force on the car. On top of turning while you're braking, it just seems to lighten up the rear end a lot, and if you've got a lot of rear brake into it, you can absolutely find yourself spinning around into the fence, and I'm sure he's not going to be the first or the only one that we're going to see do that today.
I think you're exactly right about that. He's going to have to be getting that right on the start of these runs. And I think another beauty of this next-gen car compared to what we have here in iRacing with the trucks or the Xfinity cars or any other oval-style car that they race, you can only move in those cars the brake bias 3% up or 3% down. So you have 6% of range to play with there, the brake bias. But in these next gens, Brendan, you can kind of go anywhere you want. It just matters what master cylinders you're running.
Very much limited by what your master cylinder settings are, but a lot more range as a driver in these next gen cars to really fiddle with that brake bias and find that sweet spot that you really like. And if I remember right offhand, it's about 10 clicks either way. If you're on the lower end with your master cylinders, you're going to get stopped out at about 40% or so, so that's kind of the limit you have on the lower end. But you know, you've got a lot of tools in your hands with these next gen compared to, like you said, those handful of clicks we used to have in the older cars.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's completely different playing field there with that. So as drivers, they can kind of build in that stability by dialing in a good bit of front brake there. That would help that early rotation from stopping happening. So we'll see. Maybe Alexander Light will look to add that in. And luckily for his case, he didn't get. I have to check here. No, did not have to use his fast repair. So even though it was a head-on collision with the wall, which was pretty heavy, it came out pretty well when it comes to the damage-wise for that car. So I'm thinking that we could see some people looking to possibly change up that brake bias maybe for this future. Is dialing that in is can be so valuable, especially for one, because you can see the sweep in that front straightaway that we're talking about with this D-shaped oval. It sweeps all the way around that front straightaway compared to where it is back straightaway. It is completely straight.
And you saw it there, you're already turning just due to the shape of the track, but then you also have to put a little bit of left into it while you're under braking to try to arc it down to the bottom of the racetrack. And perfect example right there, a bit weirder line than what you'll typically see somebody using to enter one, but to the same effect. That's pretty much exactly what's going to happen every single time if you've got too much brake into it.
And we're back, green flag action here for the Get Money 175. 7 laps in the books, 1 caution already. We'll see how we can fare here with these cars on the racetrack. And oh, once again, the 6 goes around. He's on the exit of, or sorry, in the entry of 1, and he got immediately toes. I don't know if he's having some type of issue with his brakes or what, because he just had the same condition happen once again, and he's going to have to toe to pit road, and I think he's already called it early night.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I know you've been dealing with some yourself, but that's the sim racing equivalent of a mechanical problem right there, and it's a helpless feeling.
It really is, and this track too, a recipe for disaster, like we've been talking about with that entry into 1, if you are having issues with those brakes there. So tough to see for Alexander Light as he's out of this race already in the opening 10 laps, but still a long way to go as we got 18 cars still out here ready to do battle for the 175 laps. And up front, Gavin Rogers leading the way. It looks good for him, but this mid-pack here is where the battle is at. It's got Brad Delphin at 14. He's looking up ahead of him with Carl Pooler and Adam Buzzio in the 5 machine battling. And right here, it's all 4 of these drivers right here battling very toughly.
Yeah, Adam Buzzio getting a decent position on the 2. Looks like he's going to be able to solidify that pass into 1 this time. And Adam Buzzio, he was talking about in the pre-race practice that he was having issues with his brakes as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on the 5 to see if that comes around to bite him this race.
That could be a huge, definite point to bring back up later if we see some type of issue with that 5 machinist. But right on board, Brad Delph, he just cleared Carl Pooler in the 71 to take over that 9th position here. As you can see, the field pretty much single file from there on forward. And you know, this track here, it is an interesting one, because I will say having tire wear here can be a very big issue, and I think you need to be able to really manage it here if you want to have that long run speed like you're going to need here possibly to get to that lap 50 stage.
No, spot on. You're going to need to manage your right front tire to get the turn through the center to be able to set yourself up for the good exit. Because at the short track, getting a good exit is key. Even if the guy behind you maybe has a little bit better center and he's diving the entries, if you can get that good exit speed, it will keep them from getting the momentum to try that dive move into the next set of corners, and you're able to hold on to the bottom. It's incredibly hard to pass somebody that is getting off the corner better than you.
It really, really is. As we're looking at from the high shot up here on the top of the grandstands, this is a great view of this beautiful 3/4 of a mile racetrack. And you got Adam Buzzio, he's making the charge up through, so maybe those brake issues are not carrying over to this race. It seemed like maybe that was a practice session issue, and he's got whatever it was adjusted back out as he's moved his way up to 7th with Manis right there in front of him. Buzzio always one to go forward as the race goes. We'll have to watch out for this time machine.
Well, looking at the lap times of the 5, Zach, he is quicker than Christensen and Manis directly ahead of him, but he is only about the 5th fastest car on the racetrack right now, so he's got 2 positions that he's realistically, at this pace, going to be able to snag. But the times throughout the field, not too far apart.
They're really, really not. The times are very, very close, and I think that's something you commonly see with this next-gen car is close lap times. You know, it's something that the field has evened out more, in my opinion, than in other previous cars we've seen iterations of a Cup car. It's very even throughout the field because at the moment these cars are going to drive actually pretty exceptionally well. It's just going to be about 20 to 30 laps from now where the struggles will kick in.
Yeah, that's really when we're going to see these guys' driving styles start to kick in, and you'll see guys that have maybe they favor diving it into the corner a little bit harder, and guys that save a little bit on the entry to get that good center and exit speed, and all that starts to come back around, and then that's also where you're starting to fiddle with your brake bias. It all comes back around, and you're just trying to find that comfortable balance throughout the entirety of the run.
It's so tough to find, and we're watching Mason Osman. He's been trying to find that comfortable zone of the thing because, man, he has had some tough times already into the wall, and like he had a tough time gathering it up. So the 78 there trying to hold on to that machine. So he's got the 57 there of Christian DeRoches directly ahead of him. And we got to remember also, this race is the penultimate race of the regular season. So we have one more race after this to close out the regular season at North Wilkesboro. So we got 2 tracks that are very similar back-to-back, Brandon. I think this could be huge for guys looking to get in those playoffs.
Absolutely. If you are struggling here tonight, needing points to try to set yourself up to have a good run at Wilkesboro and make those playoffs, if you're struggling here, it's going to be an uphill battle come next week when you run at a very similar track with these cars. Wilkesboro's a little bit more bumpy, but they drive, the feel of the car is a lot the same between here and Wilkesboro.
One thing I look at is, you know, we have 2 drivers outside of the top 12 for the playoffs that do have wins. Jimmy Kubanek in 13th in points, he has a win. That locks him in because he's top 20 in points. Johnny Shade, he has a win after last week's amazing victory there at Atlanta. He's in 15th in points, so that locks him in. That puts Dakota Camper and Carl Pooler on the outside looking in with Gregory Shaw right on the cut line. And Gregory Shaw not here tonight. That's going to be a huge point loss for him. So it's up to Dakota Camper, who's running in 4th right now, and Carl Pooler to try to take that last position and make the points look better for their case heading into North Wilkesboro next week.
And both of them right now, you said inside the top 10, Carl Pooler fighting for that 10th spot with Cody Reed, looking to snag that away from him, hoping to move forward here for the 71 to get just a few more points in the stage and try to pad that just a little bit more.
Gotta pad everything you can and make the points available when you got them. And right now, drivers know that stage break at lap 50, that's where 10 points are possibly given out to the winner. And then from there on down, 1 point from each position on. And those will be valuable. That 1 point could come back, even if you finish 10th for Carl Pooler. That could come back to be the reason why he goes on to the playoffs or he does not go to the playoffs. So you got to get everything you can out there. And right now we're having a long green flag run so far. As it looks like Adam Buzzio, he's going to be taking a spot from Dakota Camper. So that 5 continuing to be a man on the mission.
Getting a little bit loose on the exit of 4, but holding steady here. Set up nicely for the entry to turn 1, and he sails it off in there. Able to hold it pretty nicely. Late apex, and away the 5 goes, taking away that 5th position.
Great pass for Adam Buzzio up to the top 4 positions now. It's about 2.5 seconds up to the next car of Steven Stippian. As you can see, the 81 here right behind the 7 and that 77 of Gavin Rogers, who I must bring up. We did race at Richmond here last season. We had a 250 lap event here. We did have 10 cautions, but you know, that's a longer race also, and you got to include also 2 stage breaks in there, so most likely 8 cautions due to yellow or incidents. So far, we've had 1 of those tonight, and we'll get the next caution there at lap 50. But Gavin Rogers, he was the dominant driver from that race. I mean, led 144 laps and really looked very, very strong. So, I mean, he's continuing where he left off here at Richmond from last season.
Absolutely so, and you can see it just in the lap times here. It's something we talk about all the time, and it's something everybody kind of keeps in your head when you go to the short tracks, that you're not ever trying to get tenths a lap on your competition. It's those hundredths over the course of every single lap that add up to that gap that you're able to pull out. And right now, Gavin Rogers has been able to pull just a hundredth here, a couple hundredths here every lap, and it's equated to almost a second gap here coming 30 laps into this race.
It's been a great run for that 77 so far. He's really looked strong through the first portion of this race, and I even looked to like other racetracks that are similar. You know, Phoenix Raceway is not exactly the same. I mean, it's a mile racetrack compared to a 3/4 of a mile track, but in my opinion, the corners, at least turn 1 and 2, is very similar to the corners that we see here at Richmond. And Rogers, the dominant driver there, led 121 laps at Phoenix, and then the only other comparable short track we've had this season so far on the schedule was New Hampshire, and very different still than Richmond, but a short track in its same, and Gavin Rogers the winner there. So this seems to be a reoccurring thing for Gavin Rogers of being very, very good when it comes to these flatter, short style tracks.
And even more to that point, Zach, Gavin Rogers, we saw extremely fast at the Charlotte Roval, and it seems to be that the guys that know how to get around the road courses always show up at the short tracks as well. It's just that mentality of understanding how you need to brake into a corner that's as slow as these short tracks and manage your throttle inputs getting back out. It all adds up, and it all transfers between these different disciplines of racing.
It really, really does, man. I am always impressed to see what short track guys can do when it comes to the road courses, and it's those skill sets that you have at those tracks at the road courses that carry over even to here. So it's always fun to see those similarities as we hop on board here with this 7 machine Alex Coffey, and we get to see what it looks like to go around the track here as he comes through 1 and 2. I mean, Brandon, if you want to, kind of take us through this racetrack and the intricacies of it.
Well, you're going down into turn 3 here, looking for your braking point. You can almost go straight to the apron. You want to let it roll just a little bit here, wrap it as much as you can, back on the throttle, wait. You see him wheeling just a little bit, now across the stripe, looking for your braking point again. Wide arc into turn 1, and there's 2 ways to approach it. You can go kind of wide, and then late apex, he elects to stick it right down to the apron, back out of the corner nice and smooth, and rinse and repeat lap after lap for 175 here at Richmond.
And that's how you do it, folks. The Richmond Raceway, one of the more premier short tracks out there, and one of the most unique ones when it comes to how to drive that track out there, out front of the field. And right now, lap times are definitely starting to drop off, and I'm starting to see a good bit of fall off, which is it's good to see, Brandon. I think that is one thing that, you know, short track sometimes in this next gen car has lacked a few times, is that drop off in pace, and that drop off in pace makes the racing better. And we're getting some good racing right here with Dakota Camper falling into the clutches of Christensen, who had Dallas Manis there at one moment looking to his inside.
And this is going to get spicy here. The 2 cars at the back of this group have been faster than the 2 at the front, and you see you got a Mirful here trying to make this pass, looking to the outside, who almost gets the fence. Oh man, that is, oh, now the 2 of Borble all over the back of Manis here. They're trying to get out of each other's way, but also make the pass. Now Manis is going to get the fence, and Borble's going to follow him right into it.
That was a chain reaction event there. Manis into the fence, like you said, and Borbell just falling them right into it. And I got to say, I mean, the lap times being shown from this group here is very stacked up. Christensen up ahead gets a little bit free, sending Manis there off the corner, and he's going to get close to him on entry. That's going to push the 45 up the racetrack, and here comes the 2 to fill the hole. And when the 2's had clear track, he's actually running times comparable to our leaders up front. So this is looking good for this 2 machine.
And it's one of the traps you can fall into at a short track is you don't really know your pace when you're behind guys that you might feel like you're a lot faster than, because you just get stuck with them riding in the preferred lane and you're having to run their pace for so long. And that very well could be what's going on with the 2 machine right now. If he can manage to get by these guys, get some more open track, we'll see what kind of laps he's able to put in, and hopefully didn't burn up his tires trying to get around these guys.
Cannot burn them up, man. That's the one key here with the next gen car. The tire temperatures, so critical. You can easily just play way too hard onto the gas pedal, way too hard into the corners, and you can really end up making all of your equipment just really go down the drain, as they would say. So drivers have got to be able to stay conscious with that and drive similar each and every lap, but it's hard when you're trying to pass someone not to burn your stuff up.
Oh, and watching Steven's line here, last time through 3 and 4, it looks like he's going to set it up again. He enters a lot higher, able to get down to the bottom and get the clean air on the left front here. It's allowing him to have a pretty good exit. We'll see if he tries something similar through 1 and 2 this time. Again, a higher entry. Ooh, is Christensen very slow on the top, though. It's going to cost them both.
Looks like the 2 might try to follow through, actually, here. And this Steven Borbell machine is Christensen, like you said, was way up the racetrack. That opened up the door for Manis, made Borbell's lane close, and now Borbell was going to try to follow Manis through, but it looks like Christensen might do the crossover and look back to the inside of the 45. So some aggressive racing here in stage 1. Drivers not giving up.
No, absolutely not. They're trying to get everything. Ooh, Steven getting into the fence just a little bit. That higher entry in 3 again, and into the picture now. This battle has brought Brad Delph in the 14 as well as a host of others catching these guys.
Everybody catching up in this group. This is setting up to be a heck of a battle, because Carl Pooler, he's that last car for the stage points. Then you also got Cody Reed in the 25. He's right behind this group. And man, it is showing right here that those stage points are on the line here for a few drivers that really need them.
As we've got 5 laps now until the end of the stage. Oh, Christensen is struggling right now. And Carl Pooler, if you're in 10th right here seeing this, you were licking your chops, hoping to put together some good laps to at least get maybe 1 free position here.
Every position, every point will matter. And oh, Christensen, very wiggly there, coming off of 2. He's going to cover off the inside, make sure that 14 can't dive to the inside there. But Delph has been looking strong. He's going to get a good run off of 4 here possibly and have a chance down in 1 and 2. But Christensen holds on for now as we're getting closer and closer to the end of the stage break here. As it's lap 46 of 175. Remember, lap 50 is when the stage break will come out. And maybe we'll see Gavin Rogers with about a second lead up front holding on to it.
It has been pretty much bog standard racing here at Richmond. These guys, you get spread out single file, and it generally will go green if you can get to that point. And these guys, you're starting to see the tire wear now. Christensen sliding all over the place. Some guys missing the corners, but it has been some really good racing so far.
Great racing through the first 48 laps. We had an early yellow on lap 2, but other than that, we've stayed green and clean up here for the race. And right now, the man to beat, he's been the guy to beat for the whole race long. It's been that 77, of Gavin Rogers, and does seem to be having some connection issues for him. I have been watching him a few times, lose connection to the server, blink out, as they would say, and that's a scary situation if you're the leader, because you don't want those to come back and bite you, because we've seen before, it has been connection issues that sometimes have plagued them. Ooh, Delph. I believe we might have had a big incident off of 4, as I believe Borbell may have gotten a little bit of contact from Ryan Harrison. So that yellow brings out the end of the stage, and other drivers piling into it late. And Delph here having a little bit of a drift here as he was getting woed up for the pace or the speed there, as those tires are dirty after getting spun down into the grass. So man, this all just happened so quickly, as Rogers, the winner of that stage break, he's got to feel good about getting those 10 bonus points and possibly looking to go get that freaky fast Grand Slam. I know he's wanted it for a long time.
Oh, that was an interesting incident that happened right there, Zach. I couldn't tell exactly who was in it. I just saw it happen ahead of what I was watching, that battle for 10th for the stage. But congratulations, Gavin Rogers, a little bit earlier than he anticipated, but get a breather just a little bit sooner here as they come down to pit and get some fresh tires and kind of reevaluate what they need to do for this race.
After he goes through his pit box, folks, we'll talk to Gavin Rogers about that stage victory and see what he thinks he needs to do to go on and win the second stage and possibly go on and win the race. So we'll wait for him to get out of his box here, and then we'll dial him up, and he'll talk to me and Brandon Kiley up here in the booth, and we'll get to hear exactly what he feels and thinks from inside that 77's machine for the first 50 laps. It's been a great race so far. Let's go ahead and talk to our stage 1 winner of Gavin Rogers. Hey, Gavin, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth, buddy. You got a copy? Hey, Gavin, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth. You got a copy? Well, folks, it looks like we do not have him here. Is maybe having some connection issues that are transferring over into Discord for him, possibly. And we don't have a way to talk to our stage winner there. But Brandon, he's got, I mean, he didn't say nothing, but he's got to be feeling good.
Absolutely. He had over a second lead there by the time that caution came out to end the stage. And he seemed pretty flawless, not even a hint of a wiggle or any kind of mishandling with that race car. And that's got to be worrisome if you're the 7 of Alex Coffey and the 81 of Steven Stimpian, because you're just trying to figure out what you need to do to make up that little bit of a difference per lap to keep you close.
It can sometimes just be those small, minuscule things that are the difference. And, you know, the stage breaks, they help for that. I mean, you got to learn from each stage to each stage. And I think that's what the best drivers, in my opinion, do, Brandon.
Oh, 100%. If you can just take something as simple as the tire data that iRacing gives you when you change your tires and look at where the wear patterns are, the temperatures, you can make those internal adjustments. Like, okay, I need to wait just a little bit longer on the throttle, maybe back up the corner just a little bit, let it roll through the center just a skosh before I get back to the gas. It's just these tiny little details that the guys that show themselves at every race have the speed, they're up at the front. Those are the things that they can do that separate themselves from everybody else in the field.
Those are the small things that separate people. And if you see our ticker going crazy, that is because Gavin Rogers is, I mean, I think he may be gone. He has not came back for a while now. And those connection issues that plagued him during last season may be rearing their ugly head here, as we still have not had our leader in there. I finally get the confirmation Gavin Rogers has dropped due to packet loss. That means we talked about mechanical issues in sim. That's a mechanical issue if we've ever seen it.
And that is heartbreaking. If you are Gavin Rogers, feeling like you might be just lights out the best car on track right now and don't even get to finish the race, getting taken out due to nobody's fault, really. That's a really bad feeling. Hopefully he's able to get back in here and maybe get those laps back, maybe not go too many down, but we'll have to see.
We will have to see how that works out. I mean, I'm sure he'll try to get back in the server, but how long will that last for, and how many laps will he be down? They have extended this yellow by 1 lap, so we'll be going green this next time by. But this at least kind of shortens the blow a little bit for him, Kylie, because it could be very quick that he goes multiple laps down, and that's going to be tough to come back from.
Yeah, especially how green it's been so far, Zach. You're not likely to get a lot of laps back due to caution, so the quicker you can get back in here, the better for Gavin Rogers.
Well, folks, let's see how the second stage plays out. First 50 laps, it was very, very special as they battled all throughout the field. And it was a late yellow that ended that stage. And right here, Steven Stimpian, he has control of the field, and he takes off and takes the lead here as the green flag flies once again. And gotta love it there if you're Steven Stimpian. And this is a cool new feature that we have brought over here to this race. You get to see the double dual cams, as we would say here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, because, man, you get to see the 2 different perspectives. You got the leader out front in the 81 of Steven Stimpian, and then you have the 47 of Johnny Shea running back in 13th. And you get to see really how 2 different drivers approach not only their sim, but also how they approach holding that wheel, how they approach driving this car.
Well, Zach, I couldn't think of any two better cams to have up here. You've got, on the one hand, Johnny Shade, who always just seems like he is taking it easy, having a good time, and then Stimpy, and it seems like every race you see him with this camera, he is white knuckling the wheel. He does look to have a bit of a softer touch on the wheel today, so he's feeling a little bit relaxed in the 81 now that he's got the lead.
Gotta feel that relaxation kick in for him there. Is, you know, I know that's actually one thing Steven even telling me myself. He said he's trying to work on that because it is actually somewhat of a detriment. I mean, if you think about how it plays out when you grip the wheel, I mean, you are gripping the wheel so hard that you're actually taking blood circulation away from your hands, which takes away in tune feeling. And we don't have, you know, motion rigs. I mean, some guys do out there that allow you to feel those, but you don't have G-forces like you would in a real Cup Series car. We get all our feel right through that steering wheel, and if you're losing feeling in your fingers and your hands, you can easily get lost of that feeling. And I think that's one thing that, you know, yeah, you want to grip the wheel tight, but you want to grip it just light enough to where your hands can just operate properly.
And something that I also do as well is, everybody, if you get in the moment, you've got that habit of just gripping as hard as you can. The problem is that also makes you stiff. You're not fluid with your movements. And you just got to remind yourself every now and then, hey, slack up a little bit. And you'd be a lot smoother, a lot better off with your wheel inputs. And you'd be a lot faster for it.
You really will. Smooth is key, and yeah, loosening that grip can sometimes do that. It just makes you that much more relaxed and smoother. So we'll see how that works out throughout the night. But right now, we're seeing some drivers battle it up. It was Brad Delph who actually got up into Carl Pooler, put him in the wall. Now Pooler having a battle here with Plord in the 33 machine to look to hold on to a top 10 position. And right here, it's that 71 who's fighting on the outside, but it looks like Plord's going to take advantage of the inside lane.
Well, and we were talking about Carl Pooler earlier, battling for that last position for the stage for those crucial points, and he did end up coming away with 8th for the stage after that incident that ended the first stage early. So he's pretty happy with that. Still hanging on to the top 10 despite that contact, but see if he can go forward here. These guys are battling pretty hard.
Battling is definitely a good way to put it. As you can see, Reed here, he's trying to move himself forward. He was on the outside of that top 10 looking in, and now, after all of this is shook out here, he's battling for a top 6 position. It looks like Dakota Camper is going to hold on to that lead for now, but we got to remember that second stage will end at lap 100, and the way it's been so far, we could very well get all the way to that lap 100 completely green, so you got to make sure you manage your equipment very well because this would be the longest run of the night.
Well, and right now, again, like I talked about, everybody getting single file, not too many guys side by side. They'll get side by side for a moment, and somebody will make a slight mistake, and back to single file we go, and you're just going to stay green. We've seen a couple guys get loose and look like they're starting to lose the rear of these race cars, but no self-spins yet. That's really, at this point, the only hope you're going to have for a caution.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, this race is going to turn into one of those races where you're going to have to manage your stuff. You're just going to have to be as best as possible with that and make things happen on the longer runs, because I think with the field right here with 16 cars out on track, it's less likely for an incident to come out and play out. So we'll see how that shakes out. But got to say, Gavin Rogers, feel for him still after that stage 1 victory. He did try to reconnect and immediately was dropped again due to packet loss. So that just tells me right there, it's pretty much DNF tonight for Gavin Rogers after on the pole position, leading all of the first 50 laps. That has got to be such a heartbreaking feeling for that young man, because he knows how close he's been to getting that second victory all season long. It's just been eluding him.
And that's the most frustrating thing, is that there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you could have done different as a driver. It's not as though he went out here and made a mistake and wrecked himself tonight. He had the best pace and just dominated the first portion of this race. To get taken out, something completely out of his control, and that's the worst part. It's one thing if you know you get wrecked out in last or you disconnect in last, but to lead the race in a dominating fashion and have it happen is absolutely heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking, definitely, to say the least, for him. Is right now riding on board with Buzzio, and man, he's been the driver that has really been on the move all night long after the troubles there for Gavin Rogers. He's in the 3rd position now and looking for a top 3, and the speed he's showing right now, he's faster than our top 2 leaders.
Looking at his line, Zach, it's pretty smooth, at least through 3 and 4 that time. We'll have to see what it looks like going through 1 and 2. Pretty decent brake marker there, a little bit wide, later apex, straighten it out. No risk of getting loose. Pretty good exit as well. Have to see again through 3 and 4. A little bit wider than he was last lap, but again, a pretty consistent distance to the apron, nice smooth line, and a nice smooth exit.
Very, very smooth. I think that's what Adam Buzzio exudes, is smoothness. He's not a driver that makes, crazy moves. He's a driver that always just seems to be very consistent, and it comes down to, like, if you look at his average finish, he's just one of the best at that. So no surprise to see Adam Buzzio back up here. And if you want to even hear a little bit more insight from Adam Buzzio, you can go check out the Cool Down Lap podcast that just came out for episode number 2. He was just recently on there talking with our own Sam Dyer, and even had their own episode released today of the full length conversation. So you can get a little bit more even insight there from Adam Buzzio, the insides and outs of the Wicked Racing League. So make sure you go check out the Cool Down Lap, because I can tell you that's some top tier content there that we're bringing out to all you folks out there to get to know all of these drivers out through our 5 great leagues.
Definitely go give that a listen. I know Sam puts in a lot of work to get that all clipped together for everybody, and he's pretty proud whenever that comes out. He's really happy that finally people get to look at his work and check out the ins and outs of all the leagues that we covered throughout the week.
It really is special, man. So definitely got to give a shout out to Sam Dyer for that, and getting that podcast all rolling together, and also to all of the people here at Freaky Fast recording their segments. It's been a pleasure. I know I've had a fun time with it myself. So if you want to get to see the faces behind the microphones, you can go check it out there on the podcast. It's definitely a great place to get to know us also. But right here, battling still going on throughout the field, and it looks like the best battle going on right now is for that 5th position. It looks like Dakota Camper and Nigel Christensen in that 20. They have got almost together last time by into 1 and 2, and they even got Cody Reed right behind them. So this group is battling it up, and Dakota Camper, this is important for this 43. He needs very good points here, because this will allow him to propel himself into that final transfer spot into the playoffs as we head on for Wilkesboro next week.
He's done a pretty great job here tonight getting points for the first stage, holding steady in the top 10. Almost guaranteed without a wreck here, somebody causing him calamity. He's going to bank a couple more points for the end of stage 2. And looking at Christensen as he went by, it seems he's rectified whatever issues he had that made him loose last run. We'll see if it comes back to bite him at the end of this one here, because he's hauling right now.
He really is making good speed, and we'll see if that is the issue that comes back up for him. It did seem like he was holding on there at the very end of last run, so we'll see how it works out, because this will, like I said, be a longer green flag run. We had that initial first caution that split up that first run, but now we'll be able to get a true testament here as they're getting closer and closer to that lap 100 stage break. And I can confirm out there for everybody, Gavin Rogers has came back to the racing surface, but I don't believe to the racing server. I don't believe he's still out there on track. So right now, 21 laps down for our stage 1 winner, and again, heartbreaking feeling there for him, but it's sometimes just how it plays out in sim racing. As we're still on board with Nigel Christensen, you can see up ahead of him Dallas Manis. He's done a good job in that 45 of moving himself up 2 positions up to the 4th position.
Running pretty comparable lap times with our leaders right now. We'll see this time across the line. A little bit slower of a lap after that slight mistake he had coming out of 2 last time, but before that, it was within hundredths of what the 3 cars ahead of him were running. So great pace in the 45 right now for Dallas.
As we look from the back of his deck lid here, you get to see just a great shot of how this track looks and just the racing that goes down here. I mean, one of my favorite tracks, even if, I feel like this is a track that even if you feel like as a driver you're not one of your better ones, it's just always a track that has a lot of pleasure of running laps around, especially when the balance is in your favor. That's when you know you love coming here. I mean, it can be a tough and difficult track, but at the same time, it's very much a beautiful one at the same time.
100%, Zach. There's just such a satisfying feeling here at Richmond when you're able to run that perfectly smooth lap. It may not be very fast, but when you're hitting those marks, not getting tight in the center, not overdriving the entry, getting a little bit loose on the exit. When you have those nice smooth laps, it's just fun to drive.
It is definitely one of those tracks that's just fun to drive. I mean, plain and simple, it just really, really is. And you get to see good battles. And right now, this battle continues on as Dakota Camper again looking to the inside. He hasn't been able to get it done so far on Christensen, but I think maybe this time by, as he's had a good run through 1 and 2, but the run off was better for Christensen on that top side. But I think here will be the biggest advantage is on the bottom of 3 and 4. But Christensen fighting back there off the exit of 4. But I think Camper here down into 1, Brandon. I think this will be a job done for him there. Great move by the 43.
Oh, but he misses the center just a little bit, opens the door briefly for the 20, but nothing doing there. Holding on to that spot for Dakota Camper as he's back on the move forward. I wonder if Christensen has burned up his tires already. We'll have to see. Ooh, as he looked a little bit loose out of 4. I think that confirms my suspicions.
It very well could be. I mean, Christensen there struggled at the end of the first stage, and those struggles might be kicking back in here as now he's going to have Cody Reed. As you can see again, that car is just walking the rear end out, and that right there will make you super, super nervous there because these next-gen cars, Brandon, they are the scariest cars, in my opinion, when they get sideways.
Absolutely they are. There's just not a lot of feel as we're accustomed to with the old car, being able to feel when you're kind of driving on that right rear. So when these next-gen cars step out, you don't really have that feeling to let you know I'm in trouble, and you don't have the opportunity to drive through it like we had in the old cars. A lot of times the only option you have is to get completely out of the gas and let it straighten itself out before you start giving it more throttle. Otherwise, you're likely to snap over correct straight into the outside wall.
We see that plenty of times around these racetracks with this car. It's just very, very much when you get that condition there kicking in, it is almost impossible not to, overcorrect and go back to the right towards that outside wall. So drivers are looking to do the best they can to deal with that. And I think kind of like what you said, Brandon, it's more or less this car, in my opinion, it just happens. Everything happens that much faster. And again, you can't be sideways in this car, so it doesn't allow you to have much wiggle room. So when you do get sideways, you got to immediately correct it, or you're going to be going around super, super quickly. And I think it makes that reaction of finding the fine line of balance that much more important than any other car.
It absolutely does, and you need to really get in tune with what you need to do for your inputs as far as braking, as far as how much throttle you give it initially, and then how quickly you're back to full throttle. All those things will keep you from being in that death zone of stepping the car out, because it is just so hard to save these things once they get there. If you can figure out a way to be just before that edge with those inputs but never get to it, you'll find yourself with a lot of speed.
Speed is what these drivers are looking for, and looking at Dallas Manis in the 4th position. I tell you who's picking up speed is the guy in 2nd spot. He's now within about 2.5 car lengths of this 81 of Steven Stipien, and we're getting close to that end of the stage. I think it's going to be tough. If Steven Stipien can be mistake-free, I think that clean air is just so valuable when it comes to this racetrack.
And I've been watching this battle, Zach. Coffee had run Stemp down earlier in the race and then fallen back again, and I wonder how much of that is just due to the dirty air. Maybe Coffee caught up to him and said, you know what, I don't have quite enough now. Oh, his Stemp is big time loose out of the corner just ahead here. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. You see the gap shrink down into 1. Coffee's got a pretty good shot at it here.
It really does. This is going to be a battle that we're going to have to be noting for the end of this race, because how critical will it be staying out front here with the clean air? Will Steven Stipien be able to hold on? But again, a little bit pushing wide there on the exits and the rear end kicking out. He's got to be careful with putting that power down here, as it's going to be 6 laps to go here in stage number 2. Can Alex Coffey bring home the stage victor, or can Steven Stipien hold him off? Because I tell you what, the 81 looks vulnerable right now.
And it's for much of the same reason that the entry to turn 1 is so dangerous, that the exit of turn 4, you've putting down so much power here, and you feel it getting loose and you just have to let it slide up the racetrack. And a lot of times you'll see guys get into the fence because they can't turn it anymore to keep it out of the fence, so they're going to snap sideways and wreck.
So easy to do, and right now it just looks like the 7 is just much more comfortable on those exits, and that's what you want as a driver. If you see someone in front of you who is stepping out, especially in this car, this Gen 7 car, you're actually, knowing, hey, this guy is vulnerable. I just need to get that much more closer to him to make him push it. And right now, Alex Coffey, I like what he's doing. He's did a little bit more of a shallow entry there to make the 81 close the door and turn down the racetrack. You got to do things to make your competition look in the mirror, because that could lead to mistakes. And when they come out of 4 here, we're going to have 3 laps to go on the stage.
It's just that sense of urgency you give somebody when you are right on their back bumper, and it makes them get back to the throttle on the exit just a little bit more. It compounds that issue of being loose, and you're just looking for that mistake to capitalize on it and dive down to their inside. So far, Stimpian been pretty good, a little bit loose with this pressure, but he hasn't made a big enough mistake yet to really open the door for the 7.
What I like is the 7, he keeps looking to the inside down the front straightaway and making Steven Stimpian think. He's just making him think. And look, right there, almost even gets to the inside. The 81's got to turn down in front of him. And even a little bit of loose off the exit as he tries to hold on to that machine. He drives away there down the back straightaway, but he's making that 81 think, do I need to cover off shallow? Do I need to slide up the racetrack on these entries? What do I need to do to hold him off? Because you only got 1 lap to go on the stage. And here we go, down into 1. And the 7's going to send it here as they got the 8 in front of them. This could be the pick that the 7 needs. And they're going to come off the corner here. The 81's going to squeeze to the middle. The 7's going to squeeze up to his quarter panel. And right now, this 7 going to pull a masterclass move here. But can Steven Stimpian get the run off of 4 to hold him off? It looks like Alex Coffey going to win stage number 2 with a super aggressive move.
That was extremely well timed. You could not have asked for anything better there. I mean, Cuban X stayed up out of the way. Stimpian a little bit of hesitation there going into 3, and it opened the door just enough for Coffey to snag this win.
Yeah, that is tough if you're Steven Stimpian, but what an excellent job by Alex Coffey. This guy always known for the flair, always known to be aggressive. And he just showed why that works out for him, because, man, I don't think the 81 expected him to dive it to the inside there and won.
I don't think he did either, Zach. I wasn't expecting it, but as soon as he did, all I could think was all those times that he made him look, he was testing, just testing how far in he could go. He got all the data he needed and executed it perfectly with just a masterful dive to the inside there. Didn't even wash up even a little bit on those older tires.
Such a wild finish to that stage as they're going to come to pit road here and get service done. I mean, this pit stop could be critical, Brandon, right here to see who could win and race off pit road and get that, valuable clean air that we've seen Steven Stimpian have. But the 7, he may have a chance here to get this race win off the pit road.
Well, on the flip side, from what we've just saw, clean air is good, but luckily it's not everything. Just because you don't have the clean air doesn't mean your race is over. Alex Coffey showed a lot of speed having the dirty air for a lot of that run. Granted, he did allow Steven Stimpian to pull out a gap so he could get some sort of clean air, but you can still run somebody down after being behind.
Just like that, Alex Coffey wins the race off of pit road. Good job by the 7 machine, not only to get this stage victory, but also win that race off of pit road. And as he's our stage 2 winner, we're going to bring Alex Coffey up here from CNC Esports to have a chat with him about that stage there and that winning move for the stage. So what a job by him. Hey, Alex, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, man, take us through that battle there at the end. What a move going down the 1 to really use the lap car there as a blocking maneuver there. I mean, that had to be picture perfect for yourself.
Yeah, it's real hard to get around on somebody here without the rear end kicking out with the air, but I knew to use that as a pick or to move would be the only way, and I'd rather do it the clean way, so I knew I had to make something work there.
Well, Alex, phenomenal stage. Congrats on the stage victory here. We saw in the closing laps both you and the 81 struggling with that rear grip. How do you think you can figure that out, get those rears to be just a little bit more stable as the run goes on, or is that just kind of where it trends to no matter what you do?
I don't know. I know a lot of people are shifting. A lot of people, well, I don't know if a lot of people are or not, but I know some people are shifting, some people aren't. I don't know if that seems to have much of an effect on it, but I don't know. I was better off the first run. I felt like I was kind of pushing to run him down and get there on time this time, so it'll just be maintaining.
Well, Alex, you did a great job there to win that second stage, man. Best of luck to you, and hopefully we talk to you at the end of this race in victory lane.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that was our stage 2 winner. Great job from CNC Esports own Alex Coffey. What a just a picture perfect pass for me. Like you said, he wanted to do it the clean way, and that's a good way of doing it, clean without having to get dirty there.
Well, especially with this much left in the race to go, you'd want to do it the clean way and not give the guy a chance later on in the race to give it right back to you if you moved him. If you're going to move somebody, I'd definitely prefer to try to make that move for the race win rather than the stage win.
See how it shakes out here for the last portion of this race. It's been really good so far. We've had some good battles, some great racing all around this short track here in Richmond, Virginia, as the NASCAR Cup Series will be heading there this weekend. So we're getting a little preview of that action here with the Wicked Racing League. Man, I tell you, this is setting up for a great battle. And if something happens between these two, don't count out Adam Buzzio. He was right in the mix there coming down to the end of the stage. And this could be a 3-way battle for the checkered flag, and we could see a first-time victor from the 81 or the 5, or a second victory for Alex Coffey this season. But it's green flag is back out and away. Wild restart there. Looks like Dakota Camper out there diving out the back end, but it's going to be Alex Coffey leading them down in the 1.
And Dallas Man is sleeping a little bit on the restart, but he sent it in on the high side into turn 1. Going to be even with Cody Reed. Now going to make that pass from the outside, covering off the inside, looking to take that 3rd place away from Adam Buzzio, as the 2 leaders still side by side out of 4. And we've got a caution.
Big wreck back here in the back of the field involving Brad Delph in the 14. As I think Steven Stimpy may have just took the lead as that was happening with the maneuver there through 3 and 4, and it was contact between Brad Delph and Carl Pooler that would bring out the yellow here, and 3rd one due to incident here tonight. And man, what a big one this was here, as it happened right in the mid portion of the field, and drivers that need good runs involved in this one.
Well, Zach, and it looks like, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you are, the 2 cars that kind of caused this are the ones that are going to get away with the least amount of damage.
It very well looks like that for sure. I mean, 2 cars racing hard for it, and we'll see this instant replay here. We got dialed up as we got the 14 of Brad Delph here coming through the center of the corner, and I think, the 14 is just kind of holding his line there, and the 71 kind of just cutting down the racetrack. That kind of just clipped the front nose of him, and then the 18 of Blaine Wilson's involved, the 33 of Plord, the 47 of Shade here also gets into it. So the outside wall taking very much victimizing those drivers right there, and tough ordeal if you're one of those drivers that kind of was just minding his own business between the 71 and the 14, getting involved with it.
Yeah, and it's always the most frustrating thing to get caught up in somebody else's wreck and get more damage than the guys that wrecked.
We'll see another shot here of this as this Brad Delph's on board, and yeah, just the 71 coming down the racetrack there, kind of just committing a little too late to that bottom line when he wasn't clear, and the 14 just getting into the left rear quarter panel, sending the 71 around, and it can happen that easy. I mean, when you're fighting for that lane there on the bottom, it's just like that. And talk about fighting for the lane. The fight for the lead was on there, and that timing of the yellow really helped Steven Stipping, because now he's going to have control, and he took advantage of a mistake from Alex Coffey off of 2 who got into the wall.
Well, mistakes already here at Richmond, and it's not entirely surprising off a restart to see guys maybe getting a little bit too aggressive on the exits and getting into the wall with these cold tires. Track temp right now, not very hot at all, 82 degrees, so it's going to take these guys a decent handful of laps before these tires are really comfortable and they can start chasing their pace again.
We'll have to see how they can master that, Brandon. I mean, like you said, it takes laps before you get back up to that comfortable driving zone that this car can have. But they're definitely out there trying to do their best. But you can see up here on our screen, it's the weather. It's 78 degrees here, ambient temperature with a clear sky. So not a cloud in the sky here at Richmond, but 81 degrees on that track temp. That's That's pretty high for a night race, in my opinion, Brandon. That usually is a little bit of a lower number when it comes to nighttime.
It really is, and I don't really know how to explain it, but I mean, any time that you can get a short track with as hot a temperature as possible, it's going to be a lot more fun. You get a lot more tire wear. The tires heat up a lot more. They basketball. It's just not comfortable for the drivers, and it puts on a lot of good racing. So even 81 degrees in the middle of the night here in Richmond, it's going to make the racing better than if, say, it was down to 75.
I completely agree with you. The hotter the temperature, the better the racing's going to be most of the time, just due to that fall off and just the tires really taking the brunt of all that temperature that had built up there on the racing surface from that ambient temperature and weather that we have here in iRacing. And just so cool to have dynamic weather. That's been a feature now for a good portion of years, but I remember when it first came into iRacing, it was mind-blowing to see how much it could change the dynamic of a race, to say the least. So fun to see how the weather plays out, but now we'll get some more fun. Is this going to be at green flag racing here for the Get Money 175 here at the Wicked Racing League for the Buttkicker Cup Series? Steven Stippy with a great start, but it's going to be the 5 of Adam Buzzio trying to attack that number 7 machine.
Coffee tried to cover off the bottom. Adam went for that switchback. It's almost 3 wide out of 2 there with the 45.5 and the 25. Cody Reed making dive up the inside. He's going to miss it, though, into Buzzio.
Oh, big mistake from the 25 there. If you're the 5, you're not happy about that maneuver. He's going to look back to the inside of the 45 of Manus. Luckily, I think Buzzio will most likely get back, maybe hopefully to the 3rd position. As no, Manus does actually clear him there. That was a tough shot, though, to take from the 25. As you know, 25's trying to drive it in there deep, but I think just a little too deep, Brandon.
Yeah, you could make that stick maybe if you had a couple more laps and a little bit more temp in the tires, but right now that was just not going to work. And Reed, again, he's coming back around the outside, trying to get around Christensen. Christensen maybe having a little bit more pace here. As we've seen before, he likes to get after it. Oh, Christensen gets a bump going into the corner. Nice. Oh, he almost saved it.
Oh, and that's going to be another yellow there as Christensen goes around. And you see Ryan Harrison there in the 13. Just coming to a complete stop there, trying not to hit that number 20 machine that was parked there. And did a good job of trying to, but when these things lock up, it's just nowhere to go as those front tires are not going to steer anymore. And that's just one of those chain reactions there. I think the 20 just, you know, lifting for the 25 in front of him. He has the 2 right on his back bumper, and the 2 kind of spins him around there. So tough ordeal if you're Nigel Christensen trying to hold on to that machine. Is he's had a tough night trying to hold on to it anyways with some of the struggles he's had on the longer run. But that right there has got to be a heartbreaker for him. But he's going to come to pit road, and I think you're going to see some tires changed on this Tony machine. And I don't think that's going to be too much of an advantage.
Not really. With the caution laps that we've had since the stage, it really has not been that many green flag laps. It's really going to cool all these guys' tires back down, essentially like they just came out of the pits. He might have a slight advantage later on in the run, depending on how he drives it, but from the struggles we've seen from Christensen so far, I don't know if he's going to be able to save the tires well enough to capitalize on that little bit of an advantage.
We'll have to see what it does for him here. He looks like not even getting tires. Looks like just getting damage repaired. And kind of surprised by that too there, Brandon, as we have 5 sets of total tires, so 4 in pit road, and they probably only used 3 of those 5 sets, so they should have 2 more left. And you know, with it being a short track, I'm kind of surprised not to see him take any, but you know, that's the way it plays out sometimes when it comes to these races. You want to save your tires for later in that race, and I think Christian feels that way. But as we are under caution here, it's the 5th one of the night. We're going to go ahead and take our commercial break for the night and get these guys set up for the rest of this race, because man, it's been a very fun one so far. We've had some great battles up front, great battles in the midfield, and you're not going to miss a thing though, as we're going to go side by side here as we do our commercial break for the night here at the Wicked Racing League at the Buttkicker Cup Series. We'll be back in the next few moments.
The best, you got them 4 abreast, often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws! Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
He's following, they're wrecking, they're splitting, and it's a complete mayhem.
We have a wreck at the front. 19 goes down into the 7, takes out the 00.
They're 5 wide behind for fifth. Oh my, the 5 wide here, this ain't gonna work, is it? They're already wrecking into turn 1, and now coming through that of turn 2. This is it, the Daytona. Oh no, they're wrecking contact. Sets gets into the wall, gonna be scattering on the outside. Drivers on the apron, drivers coming out of nowhere. Edison on the outside, trying to get the win. And it's William Edison stealing it at the line.
Into the wall. The 18 trying to block. 77 getting to the 18. That leaves 3 of TJ Roberts. 17 of Gavin Rogers. 3 of TJ Roberts is gonna steal the win here.
But second fiddle so many times last season. Christopher Wade wins the season 5 Daytona 200.
I think I watched Josh 3 or 4 times before I ran the car. He killed them every race, and it was like stout fields, like good cars, big races, and I mean, he was unbeatable. And I was like, oh man, this is, like, I'm nervous. I was so nervous getting into the car full time this year after watching Josh win 3 or 4 races straight. These cars, they have a lot of horsepower now. They have over 500, and I think 5 years ago they didn't have 450. They're gonna be a handful to drive, but just don't overdrive them. Let the car do the work.
And we're back here, folks, at the Wicked Racing League, and whew, it's been not much to miss here because we are back under yellow there as Brad Delph went around and brought out that yellow there. 6th caution of the night, and man, Brandon, this is setting up to be an interesting one with all these pace laps here. This can throw a driver off a rhythm.
And that's the biggest thing with Richmond, Zach, is you find yourself in a rhythm, and these caution laps, it just takes you so long once you get back under green, tires finally get back up to temp, to find that rhythm again that you had so much comfort in the runs before. And we had a short rash of cautions here. Hopefully they don't continue, and these guys at the front are really looking to get those long green flag runs and get back in that rhythm.
Everybody here needs that rhythm because it's getting down to the most critical part of the regular season. It's getting down to the last 2 races, Richmond here tonight and next week at North Wilkesboro, before we head into the playoffs to decide a Season 2 champion. The first season, I mean, was just a classic one with so many different ups and downs for drivers. I think this playoffs coming up might even be just that much better. But the pace car pulls in, and we're getting ready to go back. Green flag racing. Green flag is out, and Steven Stippian in control of the field. And right here, Alex Coffey was thinking about looking to the inside, but thought better of it here. Steve Stippian's going to lead us down, and Dallas Mann is fighting on the outside of Adam Buzzio.
Buzzio going to be able to make that pass. Now Cody Reed thought for a moment, going to try to slot in line just for a second. Holding on to that 5th position, looking to get back up toward that 3rd place that he was charging toward earlier in the race.
See if he can get himself there, as right now he's got that 45 in front of him, but also the 33 of Plord, who's having a quietly good night. And here comes Christensen. He's on the freshest tires of this group. Him and Plord, I should say, are on the freshest tires of this group here, as they're coming up into the mix here with the drivers up ahead of them.
One of the benefits of having a shorter field is you don't really lose that many positions if you decide to pit to take fresh tires to kind of get off sequence and try a little strategy. And they're going to be looking here to make the most of them.
See who can make the most of them, Brandon, for sure. Is right now, Christensen, he's had a tough night, but he's been making it up. There's his teammate, though, Blaine Wilson. Haven't talked too much about him tonight other than getting involved in an incident. He's now breaking his way into the top 8, getting past that 8 machine of Kubinek, who at one point was going a lap down. So it just shows you, just because you're out of it here early, you can get a good finish in contact between these two back here. Now Camper, who's been running top 5 for the majority of the night, he's trying to make his rebound back up here, because him and Carl Pooler, the driver behind him, both need the points.
Ooh, that was very close to being an incident. Great job those guys managing to separate and keep it straight. Zach, we've got a change for the lead. Alex Coffey getting by Stimp here, and they are battling hard.
Another maneuver that I think caught the 81 off guard, as the 7 wasn't there, but he makes that late diving maneuver to get to the inside and fighting here strong with this 81. My question is here, Brandon, you know that this race could go green from here on out, and if it does, they should have enough fuel to make it all the way. If you're Alex Coffey, you got to make sure to get this pass done quickly, in my opinion.
It can be really difficult to not burn up the tires trying to make that pass on the bottom. He manages to do so here, and now you've just got to be smooth. Like you said, it could go green here. This is probably going to be the only set that they're going to need for the rest of the race. I doubt anybody will try to pull out some kind of strategy and come down under green and try to make that time back up with the freshies. So you got to take care of these tires and hope that the speed will come back around to you at the end. You do not want to be losing the car with 20 plus laps to go left in this race when the other guys are still feeling pretty good.
We'll see how Alex Coffey can take control here with this lead position, because Steven Stippian had it for majority of the second stage, and Alex Coffey was able to get that lap, or that lead, back on the last lap. Now he's going to have control. Can Stippian maybe save his equipment, but he's got to think about what's behind him, because Adam Buzzio now to the inside of the 81 here, and this is not looking good for this 81 machine, because he does not want to go up second and lose any more track position than he needs to.
And you absolutely do not want to have to give up a lot of track position. Back to rhythm. Looking at Stippian's line, it's just kind of wavering. It's not very consistent. He's still trying to get back into that rhythm. And we talked about the tire saving. You're going to give up a little bit of time in that tire saving, but you don't want to give up too many positions, because it takes a number of laps and a decent bit of time to gain those spots back, even with the fresher tires. So you can maybe give up 1 or 2 spots, but anything more than that, you are going to start pushing to try to maintain, and that might just burn up the tires, all that you've saved.
It's all about management, and management while going fast is the thing. So who can do that the best will be who can come out here the victor. But right now our top 5 kind of separating themselves as they build a gap back to Nigel Christensen and Cody Reed there in the 5th position. So interesting to see how this is playing out. Manis and Reed finding a little bit more pace than they've had all night, and they're in contention here before this race closes out.
Well, and something that we heard from Alex Coffey is these guys, some are shifting, some aren't. And just listening to our top 5, specifically Cody Reed back in the 5th position last time out of 4, I heard that thing really revved up on the exit before he slapped it up into 5th gear. So Cody Reed maybe finding a little bit with that shifting.
We could see that be a factor for sure. I mean, some drivers elect to do it. I am checking out a few drivers and seeing who is necessarily doing it. And Cody Reed, definitely the driver doing it more than anybody, because this is crazy to say, Brandon, but he goes to 3rd gear.
Oh, that I don't know if I'd advise 3rd gear. You maybe get a pretty decent launch with it, but just the amount of speed that you're going to have to give up center to get down to that short of a gear, I don't know if it's worth it. He's still hanging on to 5th, so maybe he knows something I don't.
That is intense to see. I expected to see that gear number going down to 4 and back up to 5. But it's actually going up to 4 and down to 3. So he is definitely playing with that. And it just shows you can do a lot of things in this next gen that you could not do with the previous car. The gear ratios are much more close. And even with this new implemented RPM limit of 9,000 RPM, it has kind of changed things up there also with the shifting. So it's interesting to see drivers' different strategies when it comes to that. And right now, Manis, you can see we're riding on board with him. He's electing to go with the same strategy the drivers, all 3 drivers ahead of him are. He's keeping it in that 5th gear, going all the way down to about 5,600 RPM. While Cody Reed behind him, I don't know if we can get on board with him. He is just completely different here as now we hop on board with him. He's in 3rd gear through here, and then up to 8,700, 89,000 RPM, and just shifting right at the exit of the corner.
Well, the hardest thing, it's a game of trying to tire save, because yeah, you're going to get a lot of speed with these higher RPMs on the exits of the corners. You just get a bit more acceleration than some of the guys that aren't, but you're going to be burning up the tires doing that. You're going to have a lot more wear on the right rear on the exits because of that higher RPM, but also getting back to the throttle quicker to get that acceleration. It's also going to hurt the right front. If you get back to the gas too early on the exits, you really just start pushing the nose, and you'll see some guys get that snap oversteer, which is arguably the worst feeling you can get in the car, going from being really tight and then suddenly it just wants to break loose instantaneously.
It happens so fast. And speaking of so fast, Alex Coffey is just flying right now. He's pulling a gap on the rest of this field. Look at this, Dakota Camper back up to 7th for him. This is great to see for that driver because he needs as many points as possible. And looks like he's running Christensen down also. He might be able to get himself into a top 6 position here, Brandon.
And Christensen looked like he's already roasted that right rear. He had a time of it coming out of 4 last time by. We'll have to see how much. I mean, you can see the gain from Dakota Camper here on the 20 just out of the exit of turn 2. And Christensen is just sailing it off into the corner, parking the brakes there, and trying to get back on the gas. It's not an advisable line for me.
I completely agree with you there. And one thing I noticed for Dakota Camper, the last time by, even though it was a 23-26 last time by, the time before that was a 22-80. And that is flying. I mean, the leaders up front run 23 1s and 2s. If he can get back into that 22-second bracket, he might have some contention to go up into the top 5 because the drivers up ahead of him are starting to struggle. Cody Reed, Dallas Manis, they're starting to drop off into the 23 3s, and that could be Dakota Camper's chance to go even farther up this field.
Well, they're making it easy on him, costing themselves time so he doesn't have to try to run them down. As you see Camper now going by Christensen, taking over that 6th position here, looking to set his sights on Cody Reed just up ahead. He's been pretty smooth in the 43, not really seeing any big moments, not even seeing the car step out all that much, driving at the perfect limit off the right rear here, and it's working out for him thus far.
He's been very smooth, and he's got 2 drivers up ahead of him that are almost starting to battle. That's Dallas Manis and Cody Reed. Both those two starting to struggle just that little bit, and last time by, Camper about 2/10 quicker than the both of them. Camper will soon be in this battle with those two and seeing if he can move himself forward. And even Steven Stempian starting to struggle a little bit with Adam Buzzio right behind him. I've seen that 81 having trouble. Drivers right now really fighting those rear tires.
Absolutely. I wonder if it's just a mismanagement going back to that brake bias we talked about earlier, especially when it's this cold. There's so much grip. You're messing. You need to be on top of it. If you just forget about it, you let it slip your mind, and you've moved it during the course of a run and come back with fresh tires, it's very easy to abuse them, having a little bit too much front or rear end. And some guys losing the rear this early in this run is we've got 25 to go, less than 25 to go left in this race. You're going to have to hold on to that for quite a while here, and it's probably going to cost you some valuable time in track position.
And here we go. Battle's on for second. Steven Stimpian, he's been struggling for rear grip, and right now it's Adam Buzzio diving to the inside, and he's going to take over the second spot. Adam Buzzio needs this. This is great momentum for him headed into next week at North Wilkesboro. He's in a plenty of good position for the playoffs when it comes to points, so I don't think there's any concern there. But Brandon, I think momentum is very critical before you head into the playoffs to have those good finishes.
The momentum and confidence will be everything. If you just squeak in by a point, say you get wrecked out next week at Wilkesboro and you manage to get in by 1 or 2 points, you're not going to be feeling all that great. You're going to be happy to be in, but you're just not going to have that pep in your step that somebody like Buzzio with these kind of runs is going to have. And confidence is absolutely everything behind the wheel. You just find speed, being comfortable and confident in your ability to get out here and race with these guys at the front every week and put together more and more of these good finishes.
It really is critical, man. And right here, looking at it lap time wise, we'll see who can gain on Alex Coffey. Can Buzzio have a chance here to be faster than this 7 machine? But he hasn't been the last few times by, and that's going to be critical to see if he wants to be able to go up there and battle with this 7 machine for a win. Because, you know, looking back to Bristol, that's where Alex Coffey got his victory this season. That's a good one for him there. That was a crazy finish between him and Gavin Rogers there to pull off that victory. And he could be looking for his second win, and that would tie Cedric Hunter with 2 wins this season. So that would be very, very critical, I think, for momentum-wise for him to get that done before heading into the playoffs to say, hey, I'm tied with the most wins here, because it's been so competitive throughout this season with so many different drivers winning.
And I'd say especially so knowing that the very next track that we're about to go to, yet another short track. So if you can get this win here tonight after having a win at Bristol, you're going to feel really confident going into Wilkesboro saying, you know what, another short track, I think I can add another trophy to the case.
Can he do it? That's going to be the question for sure, because Wilkesboro, I feel like these drivers should be able to carry a good bit of info from this track over there, Brandon.
Oh, 100%. It's a lot of the feel under braking. Is the biggest thing that you're going to want to pay attention to. Where you've got master cylinders set in this race, what that felt like for you, where it translated to over the course of the run with the tire wear because of that brake bias and master cylinder setting. You can carry that over and be fast straight out of the gate as soon as you land at Wilkesboro and start turning laps.
It's going to be very, very critical, and got to give a shout to Adam Buzzio. Man, what a season he's had so far. He's had 5 top 5s in the first 10 starts, so half of the races he's been in the top 5. But the big thing I look at is he had a 3rd place finish at National Super Speedway. That's his best finish this season, back all the way January 18th. So that is huge for him. And another huge thing, look at this, Dakota Camper. He's made his way past Steven Stimpian. This is a great sight to see for him. And look at this, Brad Delphi even back there looking to get the pass done on Dallas Manis.
And I think I'll have to look at it here, Zach, as to when the last time some of these guys pit. So you look at Camper 122 and Delph 124. So these guys do have fresher tires, and they're coming to life now.
Those new tires starting to show up here a little bit as they're starting to show speed that these other drivers just do not have. And right now, one of them who just doesn't have it, Steven Stimpian. He is just struggling right now for grip in this number 81 machine. And where I think it comes down to him, he just can't hook the bottom, it seems like. Seems like just never able to stay right on the bottom, and it gets that what we call that push loose condition where the nose pushes wide. He tries to turn the wheel to push that car down the racetrack and use the gas, but it just makes that rear end step out. And look at that. That moment just happened to him right there, and Brad Delph right to the inside, and Delph going to take over 4th.
And Stympian not even going to try to fight that, knowing he just does not have the car right now to have that battle. Instead of risking getting wrecked, saying, you know what, man, I've got to try to keep this thing underneath me for the last handful of laps here. You go ahead and get what you can get.
Right here's a good little battle going on. Borbell, he's caught up to Reed and Manis here. And now Borbell going to dive it to the inside and just shows those fresher tires starting to show up from the group that had about 20 laps less on them. Now, they weren't 20 green flag laps, but there was a couple green flag laps involved in that 20 laps that they did have a difference. So that is showing up right now. Cody Reed, oh man, way out the groove there as he's going to try to hold on to the spot, but Borbell going to make the nice clean pass as Reed somehow stays side by side.
In this group, including Dakota Camper, Brad Delph, and Borbell, they pit and took tires within 2 laps of each other. So you can see right here, just those handful of laps, it's about a 20-lap difference on tires from our leaders to this handful of guys, how much speed that translates to. Just them simple 20 laps, fresher tires.
It just really shows here as rubber is king at Richmond. And right now, Dakota Camper, Brad Delph, they are the 2 fastest cars on the racetrack the last few times by. They have been making up time. I don't think Camper is going to have the ability to get past the 7, but you can see right here, he's already trying to pass for second, and that could be what this 43 ends goal should be, because gaining points is going to be so critical. As you see Buzzio up the racetrack, now opens the door for Camper. Can't get the run he needs, but he's there almost on the front straightaway and will be to the inside here down in the 1 with only 8 laps to go.
Well, Adam Buzzio trying to cross him over here, not quite going to, as we've got a caution.
And it is, I believe, Carl Kohler involved in this incident. 71 has had a tough night when it comes to that, and 2 drivers getting involved in it. There was the 20 of Nigel Christensen and Carl Kohler, man, and this has set up some interesting decisions. I think you gotta hit pit road here. We'll see how that works out, but we're gonna get this instant replay queued up to see how this last yellow, or possible last yellow of the race, played out, because man, this is setting up for a wild finish now, Brandon.
I was just thinking, what's going to happen here if we get a caution? I don't think Dakota Camper wanted to see that with the advantage he had with those tires. It was almost a guaranteed second place. This will give him a shot at Alex Coffey, but I don't think with the speed we've seen from the 7, these fresh tires that everybody's going to have, I don't think Dakota Camper's going to be able to do anything with him.
It's very unlikely, but we've seen the 7 have troubles on the restarts, so it's very, very possible that that happens. I think we're having trouble there getting that replay, so we won't be able to see that one, but I will describe it as Carl Kohler and Nigel Christensen coming together on the front straightaway that ended up the 71 turned around. So 7th caution of the night there, but here's pit road. It's super busy as Alex Coffey leads them off. I'm surprised we didn't see any 2 tire changes, but it looks like this is going to be a short run and a short dash to the end of this victory.
Well, I think if you're somebody a little bit farther back, Zach, maybe like the 33, well, maybe not the 33 as he got damaged and probably was getting some of that fixed. But if you're somebody like Blaine Wilston, maybe Carl Kohler even, maybe Borbell, you take 2 tires and just try to see what happens here, because it's like you said, it's a short dash. It's not going to be you're not going to get swamped by guys over a handful of laps later with only taking 2. And if you found yourself mired back there, go ahead and try it. Try to maybe, even if you don't win, you maintain just as many positions as you can and hopefully net gain over where you were running before the caution and bank some points.
I'm surprised we didn't see it from a few more drivers, especially drivers that maybe even felt confident in points. Personally, I could have even seen Steven Stympian try it, because we've seen him be good on the short runs. It's just a question of how much those left sides are wearing. I mean, if those left sides are wearing a ton, then it's super dangerous to do that.
And that's also a very good point, Zach. That's something that's, I think, more unique that a lot of people, including myself, they struggle with trying to understand with this next-gen car. The left rear wears incredibly more than we're used to seeing in the old Gen 6 cars. And sometimes it can catch you out. And a lot of it has to do just based on how you're driving the car. So it's hard to understand what you need to do to make that wear a little bit less or maybe even a little bit more.
That is always one of the age-old things of just figuring out how to drive your car to make the tires wear a certain way. Because sometimes wearing the tires even more than your competition can actually help your balance, actually, just by changing that little bit of tire wear all around. And I think drivers definitely need to take account of that. But this is a set up opportunity for a first-time victor here this season. Dakota Camper and Adam Buzzio, Steven Stimpian, these second, third, and fourth drivers, all without a win so far. This could be their chances. If I'm Adam Buzzio, we may see some full sim moments from him here.
I think between Buzzio and Camper, I am excited to see this restart because I am sure both of them are going to throw the kitchen sink at Coffee and hope that he can hold on here and come away with this win with these hungry guys behind him. Granted, though, he does have control on this restart, so slight advantage to the 7.
Slight advantage for sure, and control of that restart like you said. But here it is. The dual driver cams are up. Steven Stampy and Johnny Shea, you get to see the restart from throughout the field. And right here as we come into the restart zone, Coffee going to take off and away for the Get Money 175 with only 2 laps to go here at Richmond. Can Coffee hold on for that second victory?
Well, got the advantage with the restart. Buzzio and Camper side by side, but Kubinek here a little bit loose, was side by side for that 5th position. They're 3 wide behind him, almost a stack up as we got the 45 into the back of the 8. They keep it clean and green here.
And off of 4, it's your freaky fast white flag. 1 lap to go here from the Richmond Raceway for the Wicked Racing League for race number 11. And Camper down into the 5 machine. That gets him sideways. They're going to be wrecking more. And off of 2, there's calamity as Alex Coffey is going to have an easy, clean victory here. There was a major incident there between Camper and the 5 of Adam Buzzio. That is tough for Buzzio, but win number 2 for Alex Coffey here to Get Money 175 here at the Richmond Raceway. What a drive from the 17.
Absolutely masterful. Took advantage of the misfortune of Gavin Rogers here and set himself apart from the field and handedly won that one. I mean, Stimpian had a little bit for him, but just could not keep the tires underneath of him. Stimpian's going to come away 3rd. Camper 2nd after a great call with the strategy to get that track position to set himself up for that 2nd place start after the late caution.
What a wild ending there. Our leader, he was all the way clear. No worries for him there coming to the line. He had that thing sealed up from this drop of the white flag, but the 43 of Dakota Camper and the 5 Adam Buzzio that come the blows down into 1. I think Camper turning in a little aggressively on the outside, gets into the door, and man, that causes a calamity incident off of 2, and one of those moments that we're going to have to see how it plays out with the drivers as they do that. But Adam Buzzio will come home 14th. As Alex Coffey gets to celebrate here on the front straightaway, we'll be back here with our top 2 drivers for an interview and a spotlight driver there. So don't go away because we're going to have some great insight from our drivers. All right, we're back here, folks. After the Get Money 175 has come to a conclusion, and what a conclusion it was. It's Alex Coffey getting his second win of the season, and what at a critical time, 2 races before the playoffs kickoff. Let's hear from our race winner, Alex Coffey. Hey, Alex, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, buddy, congrats on the win, getting that stage 2 victory. You had to fight hard to get back to that lead, but you did everything in your will to do it, man, and you come home with your second victory of the season. How critical is that for you?
That's important. It should bump us up above Cedric, considering he wasn't here tonight. So it's always good. We'll have the points lead. Richmond's my favorite track on the whole game anywhere. So so really glad to win this one.
Well, Alex, don't really have many questions about tonight for you. There wasn't a whole lot of racing you had to do looking out the windshield in the lead, but getting this win here, it's got to be a lot of confidence. How are you feeling going into Wilkesboro to close out the season next week?
I like short track, so hopefully have a strong show in there. Looking forward to it. Hopefully it's not too drama filled.
We'll have to see how that one plays out, Alex. But yeah, man, North Wilkesboro coming up next week, the end of the regular season there. Then we head into the playoffs, man. I mean, like you said, you got the 2 wins. That should put you in the points lead when we head into those. How do you feel like those playoffs set up for you with the Charlotte being the opener?
Charlotte actually is probably my least favorite 1.5 mile, but we'll put extra practice in that week, and I really like Darlington. Not too big on Michigan, so there's a few good ones for me, a few bad ones in the playoffs. We'll just try to have the best performances we can on the ones that I'm not too big on.
Well, man, you had a great performance tonight here at Richmond at one of your favorite tracks, like you said. Before we let you get out of here and go celebrate this victory, anybody wants to shout to?
Oh yeah, shout out to my teammate Dallas. He was up there all race, got tangled up in that last one, so he put on a pretty good run. Shout out Nigel and Blaine, and TJ was actually spotting for Nigel tonight, so shout out all of them over there. They were up there, but the mess happens at Richmond so much that it's all about right place, right time when it comes down to those back-to-back cautions.
That it really is, Alex. Man, congrats on the second win, buddy, and we'll catch you next time in North Wilkesboro.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that was our race winner. Like I said, second win of the season for him, tying Cedric Hunter as the only multi-time winner during the season. Those two are definitely looking good for those playoffs, but we got a driver that needed points here tonight, and that's the 43 Dakota Camper. Let's have a chat with our second place driver here as he really got the job done here tonight with a great strategy call. Hey, Dakota, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, Dakota, man, great run here tonight in a critical time, too, because a few drivers missing out that were ahead of you in points, and now this could possibly set the push you up into the last position to make it into the playoffs. How do you feel heading out of Richmond here tonight?
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's enough to put us back in. I know, I think Greg missed. I'd rather have him here and racing for it, but I missed last week. Went on a trip and. But come back this week, wasn't expecting to have a decent run at Richmond. I pitted there and drove through the field. I pitted like 25 laps into that last stage and drove through the field and got to second. And that I really didn't want that caution to come out. I was happy to just finish second. And, chaos always breaks out on those last restarts. And I'm the type of guy, I like to just chill. I don't like to race people hard. And I came into the corner a little hard and I don't know what happened with the 5. I don't know. I guess I came down too much. I felt like I left him room, but I know he's mad. I don't blame him.
Well, Dakota, you answered the question I was going to have for you about seeing that caution there at the end. I didn't figure you'd want to see it, but a great run here tonight. The strategy worked out well for you. You're sitting in a good position for the playoffs here. What is your game plan going into Wilkesboro next week?
Yeah, just keep my nose clean. Maybe stay away from the 5. I don't want like a Denny and Chastain type deal going on. I'll probably shoot him a message, and I'm sure I'll get cussed, but that's fine. I'll take it. But yeah, just keep my nose clean for North Wilkesboro, and hopefully just go out there making the playoffs. This league is impressive. All these drivers are super talented and very fast. It's hard. It's very hard to get top fives in this league. So happy to get a second, and hopefully we can continue that streak.
Well, Dakota, we'll have to see how that plays out for you next week at North Wilkesboro. But before we let you get out of here and go celebrate this top 2 finish, anybody want to send a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to send a shout out to the Gathering Place Church. If anybody's looking for a church online, the Gathering Place Church on YouTube and the Gathering Place Church on Facebook, check us out. Also, Unchained Motorcycle Ministry. They do great work around Bristol Motor Speedway. And we went on a big trip this week down to the beach to go to a church service with a bunch of other Christian bikers. So that was a lot of fun. You guys do such a great job in the broadcast booth, and these admins in this league who do such a good job running it. And yeah, hopefully we'll be talking to you again more times this season.
We hope so too, Dakota. Congrats, man, on second, and we will catch you next week at North Wilkesboro.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that was your second place finisher. What a drive it was for Dakota Camper there, battling all the way down to the end. And like you said, contact between him and the 5 ends up taking Adam Buzzio out of contention there for that second to third place position, and Dakota holding on there for that top 2. But now we're going to move on to our spotlight driver, the driver that I am so surprised he came home 6th, because he was involved in the yellow that brought us to that last restart, and that was Jamie Plord from the 14th starting position. So let's hear from the 33 of Jamie Plord. Hey, Jamie, it's Zach and Brandon up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do. How you doing, fellas?
Doing great, man. Well, I tell you what, Jamie, that was a impressive job to bring it home in 6th. I mean, involved in that yellow right before that last, run there and that restart. How did you end up bringing it home 6th?
Well, I'll tell you. At that moment, I thought I was done for right there, but just got back on the track and tried to persevere back to the front. It was tough though. I mean, everybody was slipping and sliding around. It was a lot of fun though.
Well, that leads into my question for you, Jamie, is you saw a lot of guys slipping and sliding here tonight. How much were you personally struggling with that, or did you, find something that worked for you to kind of keep that to a minimum?
Oh man, I'm telling you, I was struggling all night, but trying to find a balance in these cars is really hard, and also trying to keep up to the guy in front of you and trying to view your line is just all, it all has to come together for you to make a good run. So I think it's a little bit of luck, but it's also a little bit of perseverance. I was actually excited about this track. I think everybody else was a little hesitant about Richmond, but I had a lot of fun, and I was trying to stay optimistic, and it ended up working out for us. So I'm really happy for the AP 33.
Yeah, it definitely was a great finish for you there, Jamie. And, 2 short tracks back-to-back here with Richmond tonight and North Wilkesboro next week. How do you feel about heading into North Wilkesboro?
Well, seeing as I got a 6th tonight, I'm gonna hope for another top 5 next week, and we'll just go for it. We'll see how it goes. But I'm pretty optimistic. I think it's going to be a good run for us, and this whole group is just everybody in the field is tough and competitive. So it's really hard to get up in the top 10 in these races, and these guys just have so much talent, and it's just so much fun to run with these guys. And you guys do a great job in the broadcast booth, and I love watching the races after and whatnot. So thanks for everything you guys do, and thanks for everybody watching.
Yeah, Jamie, well, we appreciate those kind words, man, and we really appreciate it, because it's what you drivers put out there on the track that it gives us the ability to put on the show we do. But before we let you get out of here and go get ready for North Wilkesboro next week, anybody want to send a shout-out to?
Yeah, I'm going to thank my parents, my mother and my father. They watch every week. Also, my fiance Olivia, she watches every week. And everybody else, just keep supporting this channel, man. This is a great group of guys, and we put on an excellent show, and it's so much fun to run with these guys. So I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Well, Jamie, you have a great night, man, and we will catch you next week at North Wilkesboro.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, folks, that was our spotlight driver there of Jamie Plord. What a job by him to bring it home in 6th. I mean, he was involved in the yellow that brought us to that restart, and with all the mayhem happening there in turn 1 and 2, he makes it through and gets himself a top 6 position. So congrats to him. It was a wild night here for the Get Money 175, but we'll get them race results up for you folks to see where your favorite drivers came home tonight after a battle here at Richmond. I mean, that's to put it plain and simple. Drivers were fighting many different things. We've seen drivers shifting, drivers not shifting, drivers getting loose, drivers getting tight. I mean, it was just all over the place when it comes to that. But you can see Alex Coffey there, second win of the season for him. Huge moments there for sure to tie Cedric Hunter with the most wins here in this league. Second's going to go to Dakota Camper. Third's going to be Steven Stimpian. Fourth is Cody Reed. Fifth's going to go to Blaine Wilson. Sixth is going to be Jamie Plord. Seventh's going to be Stephen Borbell. Eighth is Brad Delph. Ninth is Dallas Madison. Rounding out the top 10 is Christian DeRoches. As we look through the rest of the leaderboard here, Brandon, anything that sticks out to you?
Well, Zach, I've got a few notables. I mean, first and foremost, Gavin Rogers. It looked to be the dominant car. He's going to bring it home here tonight. Scored 17th, 117 laps down after getting disconnected. And then you've got to look at Adam Buzzio. Had a great run set up. Unfortunately, just that late race contact, just a racing deal. Not really anything he could have done about that. He ran flawlessly tonight, put himself exactly where he needed to be, and unfortunately, just that little bit of contact at the worst possible moment for him. He's going to be slotted in 14th. And you got to look at Carl Pooler as well, who had a really good run going, got some pretty good points in our stages tonight, needed those good points. With the playoffs looming here, he's going to come back outside the top 10 and finish 13th.
Tough nights for a few, but great nights for others, and that's the way racing goes sometimes. But man, this Wicked Racing League, it's been putting on a show week in and week out, and we cannot wait to get to North Wilkesboro next week to see it all play out. But Brandon, what's your final thoughts from Richmond, and what do you think we could see heading into North Wilkesboro for that regular season finale?
Well, Richmond was typical Richmond. I mean, you see the guys get strung out single file, and then it just comes down to managing your stuff and waiting for other guys to start falling off to really be able to make your moves effectively, and we saw a lot of that tonight. And I think going on to Wilkesboro next week, Zach, we're going to see a lot more of the same. That track is rough, especially if we get out there and we get a lot of temperature in the racetrack. These guys are going to struggle with the handling the entire race. It's such a unique track with the elevation change. You wouldn't think that a short track like that would have such drastic elevation change, but it really plays a role in the braking and the handling going into the corners and on the exit of the corners. These guys are going to have their handful, and they're going to have to put in a lot of practice this coming week here to get ready for that final race of the regular season.
It's going to be a time that you don't want to miss. The end of the regular season where we decide who our 12 playoff drivers are going to be and who's going to battle for a championship here at the Buttkicker Cup Series at the Wicked Racing League. But don't forget, we have plenty of other action going on all throughout the week. And tomorrow night, we have the Stars and Stripes Series with the ARCA cars, as they've been just excellent races over there night in and night out. And Saturday night, we're going to head to Japan once again for the Twin Ring Motegi Oval Racetrack, as that should be an interesting one with these next-gen cars here, similar to what we've seen with these cars here tonight. Then back at it again Monday night with the ISRC Truck Series as they start their playoffs, as playoffs are just looming for a lot of different leagues. And then back again on Tuesday nights for the full Sim Racing Series, and then Wednesday night here at North Wilkesboro with the Wicked Racing League. So plenty of stuff to still go on throughout the week. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, and so you can stay tuned with us throughout the week with all 5 of our great leagues that we have. But thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure from myself, Zach Hall, Brandon Colley, and our producer, Robert Moyer Jr. As I always say, stay freaky fast.